Bennington is a dynamic and insightful author and speaker. She is a friend of our firm, and we are delighted by her presentation at the Spillman Firm Retreat a couple years ago. For those of you who have not been participated in an Emily Bennington presentation, you're in for a real treat. Secondly, I'm inspired to be surrounded by such motivated professional women, to work in a community that encourages workplace engagement by all, and to work with, and occasionally raise a glass with, successful, driven women, many of whom are in this room. Important. You also heard me refer to important a few minutes ago. Here's what I meant. This event is important in three meaningful ways. First, like you, I'm delighted to support our local author and entrepreneur, Emily Bennington, on the publication of her second book, published by American Management Association Press, and the ascendancy of her career and increasing reputation as the authority on success, especially for women and young professionals. Emily, you have my sincerest congratulations on these accomplishments and all of your future accomplishments. You have created an important source of pride and bragging rights for Charleston, West Virginia, and local female professionals. An important event. Secondly, because of Emily's message, when you hear Emily's remarks and when you read Emily's book, you will gain incredibly powerful wisdom and insight about finding fulfillment in your career, both personally and professionally. That's an interesting concept and often overlooked, personal fulfillment in your career. Who Says It's a Man's World addresses an important topic that has the potential to create divisiveness. Instead, it draws you into its advice and encourages you to put more into and take more from your professional, and frankly, life in general. It identifies disparities in the workplace without creating a martyr of those who are in the minority. This book is an homage to the importance of finding career fulfillment that will lead to career advancement. When you find such fulfillment, it is a tremendous awakening and a true difference maker in your life. Personally, my copy of the book is highlighted and tabbed already, and I feel certain that I will continue to use it as a resource throughout my career. And finally, this is an important event because of the theme of the book and the mission of the Elevation Series program. Gender diversity continues to be an issue in the United States. It is vital that we recognize and address any and all barriers to women enjoying the success that they earn and deserve in terms of career advancement, compensation, respect, and access to opportunities. This is an issue that's tremendously important to me, and I'm proud to say tremendously important to Spillman. We focus on gender diversity. Our clients evaluate us on gender diversity. Our professional organizations and associations have begun to focus on it, engaging in research and education to shine a spotlight on gender disparity, both in the legal and in the corporate arenas. From Spillman's perspective, are we where we want to be yet on this issue? No, but we're certainly working on it, and I can tell you that women play a large role in the Spillman community. The chair of our litigation department is a woman. The executive director of our firm is a woman. The director of public policy is a woman, and she's here with us tonight. 33% of our attorneys firm-wide are female, and 26% of our equity partners in Charleston are women, well above the national average. So yes, gender diversity is a huge focus for me and for my firm. When it comes to working on improving gender diversity within Spillman, there is no finish line, and so this event, which continues the dialogue, becomes even more important. When I was contacted about this sponsorship opportunity, it would be an understatement to say that I jumped on it immediately. Jo Ellen, who unfortunately couldn't be here today because she was traveling, and Emily, we thank you for allowing Spillman to be a part of this important and inspiring event. And now I'm delighted to call to the podium my Spillman colleague, Skip Linneberg. He is our Chief Innovation Officer and a mentor to Emily Bennington, and he will introduce you from that unique perspective.
I want to paint a picture for you of Emily Bennington, who you're going to hear from shortly. Emily is courageous. She knows no fear, and if she's ever been afraid, I've never seen it. Emily is cool. She comprehends and processes culture, style, fashion, music. She's cool. Emily Bennington is caring. As many of you will attest, she's a great friend. She's a true friend. Thoughtful, always one of the first to respond, quick to include and invite others in everything she does. She stays in touch and invests in relationships with people because she cares. Caring. Emily Bennington is a communicator. She relates to people across demographic and other boundaries. She finds interesting themes and ideas, and she articulates them with soul, purpose, and voice. Emily is clumsy, Had to throw one in there, right? And a C word, right? If you notice the pattern here. Well, she's not really clumsy, maybe a little bit, but she does have a certain proclivity for letting the cat out of the bag and inadvertently spoiling surprises. It's happened a million times. It's comical. So if you're ever planning a surprise birthday party or some other covert event, proceed with caution before you loop Emily into that conversation. Emily Bennington is connected. Our girl's Rolodex is massive. From other famous authors to TV celebrities and talk show hosts, from elected officials to CEOs, Emily's contacts know no boundaries. And I'm talking about rubbing elbows with the likes of Marianne Williamson and Tori Johnson, and the list goes on. Emily is captured, chronicled, and channeled. CNN, ABC, Fox Business, Huffington Post, Forbes Woman, New York Post. I could never dream of being in these media that Emily's been featured in. The list goes on. The Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Glamour, Cosmopolitan, and I know the one she's really aiming for is Vanity Fair, and I can't imagine it's going to be too long before I can add that one to the list. Emily is clever. She is brilliant. Her intelligence was the first thing that I noticed about her. It's impossible to miss. Her intelligence is complex and broad and far-reaching, and from what I've seen, it's ever-growing. And lastly, the last C word that I'm going to use to paint a picture of Emily is that Emily is centered. Yes, most importantly, Emily is centered. She's found balance and purpose in her life. You see, she's always been a powerhouse of talent and drive, coupled with this innate desire to succeed, to climb. But when she became centered, that's when she really found new heights for her success. That message and the path that she took to get there comes through loud and clear in her new book, and I'll let her tell you more about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely proud to present to you my colleague, my co-author, and my dear longtime friend, Emily Bennington.
Wow, I am so overwhelmed already, and wow, just thank you so much for that, Skip. And Amy, thank you for your lovely comments as well. And thank all of you for coming out tonight. I mean, about a month ago when we were planning this launch, Amy and I were at the bistro and we were talking about what this could be. And I remember saying, do you think, it was about a month out, so I remember saying, do you think that we can get 50 people in 3 weeks? And the fact that we got over 100 in 3 hours just really speaks to how much you guys love free wine. I'm kidding. It speaks to how important our careers are to the quality of our lives. And I've been asked many times how I got started writing about this topic. And up until this very moment, I've always said that it was the lessons that I learned from Skip. And that's true, because I meant what I said in the dedication, Skip. If everyone built women leaders the way that you do, there would be no need for this book. But there's actually more to this story, and there's other career lessons that I have learned here that absolutely set the stage for the book that we're celebrating tonight. And these are lessons that I have learned from my family. And since I'm in my hometown and my family is all here, I wanted to share a couple of those lessons with you tonight. My dad is here. Say hello. Many of you know that I was raised by my dad, but not very many of you know that my dad is somewhat of an artist at heart and would have probably preferred to have had a career behind a drum set than a desk, where he spent the bulk of his career. And even though he doesn't talk about his work much, there was something that he said to me about 15 years ago that I have never forgotten. He said, "Emily, I take my lunch every day at 1 o'clock. And the reason why is because I know if I can just make it to 1, when I come back at 2, then the time from 2 to 5 isn't that bad." And he was kidding and I laughed, but at the time I remember being really impacted by that, because even though I was in college, I remember thinking, gosh, a career could be so much more, and I just really wish that I had the words at the time to help him find joy in his career. And I was in college and I was working at Chili's, and so no one was taking career advice from me at that point. But these days, I really feel like I have the combination to that lock. I know now that rewarding work, the kind that we all strive for but seems so elusive, is at the intersection between liking what you do and knowing that what you do helps someone else. And it could be one person in the way that Skip helped me, and it could be thousands of people the way that College Summit helps your students. But I do know that being of service is the magic formula to fulfillment, and you don't get it by adjusting your lunch, you get it by adjusting your life. Until you get that perspective right. But I'm really proud to say that my dad figured that out in his own way, because he is a collections representative for a bank. And so what that means is that, we have some bankers here in the audience, but what that means is that if you take a loan from the bank and you default on it, he's on the other end of the phone. But he gets thank you notes from people, and I can't think, when I think about who I would want to send a thank you note to, a collections representative really is not at the top of that list, but he cared. He saw himself being in service to, I hope I'm not busting you out here, Dad, but I think that in some ways he saw himself as being more in service to the people that were on the other end of the line than to the bank itself, and they picked up on that. And because he cared about his customers, the job was more fulfilling to him. And so that's ultimately a lesson for me. My mother is also here tonight. Whew. For a host of reasons. And my mother didn't have a career that we would define as we would define it in this room. But one of the main ones is that she always had my stepdad. And he was a bridge painter. And one day he went to work and he never came home. He pulled up to a job, and he got out of his car and he had a heart attack. And he collapsed and he died on the spot. And as I've watched my mother try and pick up the financial pieces of her life over the last few years, I am reminded that life is unpredictable, and sometimes the Calvary doesn't come. And my mother is also a huge reminder to me that being of service in this role, for me, is how much I want all of you to have the freedom that earning enough of your own money provides. And specifically, I am talking about the freedom to simply walk away from any situation that doesn't serve you. My mother hasn't always had that option. But I know that she is proud that her story is a big part of mine and the reason why I do this work. I would love to sing about empowerment like Beyonce, but I can't sing, and as you can see, I have no backup dancers. So I use my voice a different way. I speak for her. And I talk about careers because while not everybody will agree with this, my background tells me that career and empowerment go hand in hand. I've had another example in this regard. My grandmother is here today. Say hi, Momo. I should point out to you guys that none of my family has seen me speak except for YouTube. So this is probably a little bit of a surreal surprise to them. But when my grandmother was 30 years old, she went to see a psychologist. And do you know what he diagnosed her with? Low confidence. Who knew that was an ailment? But the solution to her low confidence, he told her, was to get a job. And this was in 1960, at the dawn of the second wave of the feminist movement. And even though her employment options were way more limited then than they are now, I still thought that was fantastic advice. And I'm not going to bore you with the stats of the levels of women who have achieved, who have appeared at the highest levels in business since my grandmother saw that psychologist, but they're all in the book. And we both know that they're abysmal. And there's obviously a lot of discussion about why this is, right? Is it a confidence gap? Is it an ambition gap? But if there's one thing that I can tell you for sure, from my own experience and from the countless executives that I have interviewed, and it's that your voice is a muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And a big part of using our collective voice is to stop the dialogue about women wanting more in the workforce and actually starting to support each other and use the power that we have. I'm standing in front of you today because I had a great mentor. So I am proof of what a great mentor can do. And so I am asking everyone in this room to use your confidence to be a mentor and help someone else find their confidence. And after meeting with her psychologist, my grandmother did actually get a job. She spent 30 years as a secretary at elementary schools, including my own and Amy's. And I know that she benefited tremendously from that. So I want to close here on the subject of mentors because aside from Skip, there is another man in my life who has been a great mentor to me, but he doesn't get nearly the credit that Skip does, but he definitely should. And that's my husband, Johnny. Where are you? Okay, there you are. You won't believe this, but aside from tonight, the last time Johnny actually saw me speak was in 2005. At the very first presentation, before this was a career for me, before anything, it was 2005, first presentation I'd ever done with Skip on the topic of careers. And so it's been over 8 years. We have a 7-year-old son who wasn't even born then. That's how long it's been since Johnny has seen me speak. So I hope I'm doing you proud, honey. If you've read Who Says It's a Man's World, then you know that the book is about values-centered self-management. It's about figuring out who you want to be and managing your career around that. And I think a lot of us get that backwards, particularly when we're ambitious. We build our careers on what we want and then try and squeeze in a life around that. And I've learned that that's backwards, and I've learned that lesson from you. And I'm forever grateful for that. So a lot of people ask me why I'm able to do this work in West Virginia and if I want to move and whatnot. And what I've learned is that it doesn't matter where you are. If the work that you do every day is excellent, then the results will take care of itself. And I really, really, really tried very hard to think of a closing for this presentation, but I couldn't get it better than what I've already said. So I just wanted to to end here with the last page from Who Says It's a Man's World. This is such an incredible, unprecedented time to be a woman in business. Never before has our style of leadership been so needed, and never before have our choices been so vast and opportunities so great. That said, it's still right now that matters most, not the promise of what's coming around the bend after the next big break. Perhaps you've discovered this already, but if there's one life lesson that still continues to bitch slap us all, it's this. Nothing will work exactly like you think it will. It never does. Maybe, as in my case, you meet the guy who derails your long-planned move to New York City. Maybe you study for years to go into an industry and then you realize, God, I hate this. Maybe you've cut back on your hours because, surprise, you're preggers. Whatever life throws at you, if you keep the focus on what you want, you'll never be satisfied. However, if you focus on who you are, I promise you'll be better equipped to accept whatever path you're on, even and perhaps especially if it doesn't fit the mold of what you had planned. As I look back on writing this book, I'm reminded that the toughest part of the process has been deciding what to include and what to leave out. There is obviously so much important information that could have been added to every chapter, but frankly, you probably know most of it. Of course, you should wear your name tag on the right. Of course, you should have good mentors. And yes, odds are good that you could be a stronger, more confident, everybody's switching their name tag. On the right, ladies, on the right. And yes, odds are good that you could be a stronger, more confident negotiator. For me, the benchmark of this project wasn't necessarily saying important things, but having something important to say. And as I mentioned in the introduction, there's nothing more important to your success than being a magnificent woman first. Because the truth is, it's not a man's world or a woman's world. It's our world because it's what we make of it. No ceiling. And that's my final wish for you, to work with ease and grace, knowing that you're exactly where you need to be and going exactly where you need to go. All you have to do in this moment is be your best, do your best, work hard, and never give up. Because trust me, that's the only measuring stick that counts. Thank you all so much for being here. I love you all. God bless.